Hello, everybody. Welcome to my Lunch and Learn for May. Today, we're going to be talking about the neuroscience behind manifestation. So I think it's going to be a really interesting one. I'm really looking forward to it. So if you have any questions or anything like that, any comments, pop it in the chat and I'll see what I can do about that, whether it's live or on replay. I will certainly be there for you to answer any questions as much as possible. So welcome from wherever you are. Hello to Australia. I know I've got a few Australians in the group, and in America, in Europe, UK. Over here in Germany, we have a public holiday today, and it's also Father's Day, actually, which is interesting. So happy Father's Day to my dad in Australia, even though it's not actually Father's Day in Australia. Anyway. So manifesting, it's one of those funny things that I guess we'd all like to believe it, but it's easy to be skeptical when it comes to the whole idea of manifestation, particularly when they start talking about, setting your vibes out into the universe and, sitting back and you'll become an instant millionaire. I don't know, things like that never quite sat really well with me. But I think I like the idea of manifestation. And I think, there's a lot of aspects to it that are absolutely true. It's more about the how than the what, I guess you could say. So today's discussion is really going to be a tactical lesson in manifestation with a neuroscientific basis. So neuroscience is really just looking at how the brain works. And I'm going to keep it nice and simple. I'm not an expert, but I have studied this particular area and I find it really, really interesting. So I really want to share with you as much as possible. So as I said, I am a bit of a skeptic, but in the past, I've kind of seen how manifestation can kind of work. I thought it was my own way. I would see something that I really wanted, and then I would see an opportunity that arose, and then I would take that opportunity, and then I would succeed. And I've done that with so many things during my career. And I did that when I wanted to be a Rotary exchange student, when I was a kid. Even from 9 years old, I knew that I wanted to be a Rotary exchange student. And I wrote down on a picture that I drew for my dad for a birthday card that, here's a picture of me as I wave goodbye to you on my way to Switzerland on a Rotary youth exchange. And then 7 years later, I saw an advertisement in the newspaper calling for Rotary youth exchange students. So I applied, and then a couple of months later, I was in Switzerland for a year. So stuff like that, it definitely happens. But I always thought, that's me. That's me seizing the opportunity. That's me taking action. Is that the universe? No, I'm taking control here. This is me. So, when I became a coach all those years ago, so a couple of years now, I really started to see that the brain is kind of an incredible thing. Because before I became a coach, I was 17 years in funds management and investment banking, and I was always doing really well. But, there was always some things in my head that weren't really helping me on my journey, basically. So there was negative self-talk. There was the 3 a.m. worry vortex that was really difficult to get around. There was some imposter syndrome that popped up, things like that. But when I actually started studying coaching, when I decided to have a complete career change and become a coach, when I started studying coaching, I was coaching other people and also being coached. And I noticed reasonably quickly that my brain was changing. I was thinking differently. When things that were negative were popping up in my head, I could say, oh, right, I don't need this. I don't want this. What am I going to do about it? How am I going to think differently about this? How am I actually going to address this? So things were really coming into my consciousness that were not there before. So I got curious. It's like, okay, my life has now changed now. No 3 a.m. worry vortexes anymore. I'm so much calmer. I talk differently to myself. So coaching works, but why? What is the neuroscience behind this? And that's when I really started to delve into neuroscience and how the brain can work in our favor to change our behaviors, particularly when it comes to goal setting and things like that. And so when I was looking into neuroscience, I came across this fantastic book. It's called The Source, and it's by Dr. Tara Swart. And she's a neuroscientist and executive coach in the UK. And she really explores this idea of manifestation and how the concept of manifestation is actually grounded in neuroscience. It's your brain doing all of this work, but we actually need to unleash the brain so we can consciously allow it to do its job. Because if we don't, it won't necessarily be there to help us. So we'll be talking about this a lot today, and it's a really interesting discussion. And because I love that book so much, she also teaches at MIT Sloan School of Management. So I did a certification there in neuroscience for business just to really get all of the details. And so a lot of what I'm going to be discussing today is actually content from that course and content from this book as well. So as they say, shall we get into it? Let's talk about the first step of manifestation. So really, we want to prime the brain for manifestation. We need to tell it what to focus on. So there are 3 steps to this bit. So we have selective filtering, we have selective attention, and then we have value tagging. So the brain is absolutely swamped every day. It's hit by billions of pieces of information. So everything that you see and feel and touch and taste and smell, that is all being processed by your brain every millisecond of every day. And so that is a lot of information. So even, for instance, as you're sitting here watching this, you don't notice that, how your clothes feeling on your skin. Your brain is just so busy with so many things, it actually has to filter out the information that just isn't important. At the moment, it's not important how your top feels against your shoulders because it's not hurting you. You don't need to know for your survival how it's feeling. So your brain filters it out. It's selectively filtering that. And if you go for a walk down the street, you won't necessarily see all the shops. You won't necessarily see all the people or all the cars unless it's something that you really do need to see. So if you're in danger or if somebody that you know is approaching you, then your brain will filter that in. But otherwise, your brain will just filter it out. So there was a study a couple of years ago, and it said that people these days, if you read the New York Times for 1 week, the amount of information you'll absorb in 1 week from the New York Times will be equivalent to what people absorbed 100 years ago in their entire lifetime. So talk about information overload. So your brain is doing everything it can to keep you alive. So it's just trying to get all the crap out the door so it can focus on what matters or what it thinks matters. And then we have selective attention. So you've got selective filtering and then comes selective attention. So this is what your brain actually allows you to focus on because it thinks that that's important. So if a car is coming at you, it will allow you to focus on this. And then you've got value tagging. And we do this a lot. So years ago, I bought a blue Suzuki Swift. And then I started to see blue Suzuki Swifts everywhere because that was important to me. So your brain tends to tag things as important to you. It kind of layers things. So if it's in your circle of awareness, now it's gonna rank everything in terms of how important that is. And there's 2 different types of ranks. So you've got the cold or logical ranking, and then you've got the emotional and warm ranking. So the cold and logical, if someone's coming at you with a knife, that's pretty important. That's probably going to be number 1 in what your brain is taking into account at the moment. But unfortunately, the warm and emotional, it's not at the top of the list because you don't need it for your immediate survival. So your dreams and your desires and your want for love and affection and things like that, it's emotional and warm, but it's not 100% necessarily needed for your immediate survival. So your brain, unfortunately, is not going to put it at the top of the list. So what does this mean? Actually, we so often go through life thinking that our brain is on our side and it's going to tell us, oh, here's an opportunity, Alison, quick, get in there and do that. But the brain is much more focused on survival and logical, cold things than your dreams and desires. So you're going to have to do something about that yourself. You really need to take back control of what your brain is paying attention to. This is really, really important. This is such an important part of the whole idea of manifestation. Manifestation just means making something happen. And to make something happen, you need to know what it is first that you want to make happen. So after we've primed our brain to say, okay, what's important to us, how do we make sure that the brain takes this under advisement and actually notifies us and tells us when there's an opportunity available? How do we make sure that the brain understands that this is what it is that we want to focus on? So bear with me here. This is through visualization. Yes. So we need to kind of prime the brain and the body to make it real, almost to make it open to receiving the information that something is really important to us. And the longer and more consistently we do this, the more your body will say, okay, this is important. And we do this with lots of sensory interaction as well. So the more real it seems, the more real that your body thinks what you're experiencing is. So when we visualize something, we hear everything, we smell things, we taste things, we see things. Make your visualizations as real as possible. And then your body doesn't know that it's in danger. It doesn't think that you're in danger. So if we're dreaming about new situations a lot, the brain might think, oh, this is new. This is actually dangerous. We don't know about this. We haven't done this before. So, I'm wary. I'm going to, kind of repel this. This is dangerous. This is new. But if we show it through visualization and with sensory interaction that this is okay, this situation that we want is okay, then your body will be much more open and your brain will be much more opening to accepting when that situation does come. And you'll have far more endorphins related to that, and much more roaring towards you than pushing away. So this really helps the brain and helps you to visualize really strongly what it is that you want. So it's visualization. It sounds a bit woo-woo, but actually there's been some really big studies and really interesting studies that they've done on this, and it actually works. So there was a study a couple of years ago at a clinic in Ohio where they got 3 groups of young under 30 fitness freaks, and they split them into 3 groups and said, okay, the first group, we are going to give you like hand muscle trainers, and you're going to train your muscles for 15 minutes, 5 days a week for 12 weeks. And then in the second group, they told them to visualize doing this for 15 minutes, 5 days a week for 12 weeks. And then in the third group, that was just a control group. So they said, don't do anything at all, no weight training, nothing like that. And then after 12 weeks, they measured the muscle mass of these people. And the people who had actually done the weights, their muscle mass had increased by over 50%. The people who visualized doing the hand weights, their muscle mass has increased by 35%. I mean, that's just bizarre, but it's really kind of cool, hey? And there's been other studies like that as well, like putting people, 80, 85 years old into a different type of nursing home. So one that looks and feels like they were when they were in their 60s. So they kitted out exactly how they would have had their apartments in the 60s. They ask them to think and interact like they did when they were 60. So if they weren't using a walker, they shouldn't use a walker in these new apartments. If they were very sociable, they should try being sociable again. If they had glasses in the 60s, then they could use glasses still. But if they didn't, then they had to try to live without them. And after a period of time, these people actually didn't need the walkers anymore. They didn't need their glasses so much anymore. Just that the power of their brain had physically helped them almost heal over that period of time. So it's absolutely fascinating what the brain can do. And, if we can use that to lose weight or something like that, it's just really fascinating to see what could be possible with the brain. So visualization can be really, really powerful. powerful. And so the next step to combine with visualization is action. So this is a key part of manifestation, and it's slightly different from just sending out vibes into the universe. So how do we act upon our visualizations? One really cool way that I learned about at MIT Sloan, it's a proper university certification, but we actually created action boards when we were there. So an action board is like a vision board, but you take action on the things that you actually put in it. So, I developed one when I was there, and I will share it with you because it's all about vulnerability, as Brene Brown likes to say. So this is my action board that I created. So all of the things that are important to me and that I want to achieve over a period of 6 to 12 to 18 months. So it's very much based on things that kind of make my heart sing. So if you're looking for what is it that you want to achieve over a period of time, it's not necessarily about, I want $1 million, I want a promotion, because that doesn't really make your heart sing so much. Well, it might. But, it's more purpose-driven and value-driven than ego-driven. This is what will allow you to feel these emotions in you when you visualize. When I visualize some of the things on my vision board, I get quite excited, I get motivated, and that gives like a feeling within you that kind of bubbles up, and it makes it more real for your brain as well. So it's a very powerful tool to use. So things like, I've got community, and this is my company in the middle, Moxie Boss Coaching, leadership and empowering women, and pictures of the type of women I want to empower over time. I want Glück, which is German for luck or happiness, because I want both. Time spent connecting people, focusing on the things that really matter. A bit of cash is always nice as well, so pop that in there. I've got pictures of that represent Asia to me, and Sydney is Manly up there, and Frankfurt as well, because that's where I became who I am. That's taught me so many different things, all these locations. And so to keep that close to my heart, I have that in my action board as well. I've got things like wellness, learning, because I love learning and growing and learning more about coaching and neuroscience, leadership, holidaying in Scandinavia. I've got a little Peloton sticker down here to remind me about the wonderfulness of exercise and community that the Peloton community gives, and a little bit of romance in the corner as well. Why not? So we've got that vision board or the action board. So how do we use it to its best effect? So there's this psychological phenomenon called the Tetris Effect. And you might remember Tetris from when you were in primary school, for instance, and you might have played Tetris on your little Game Boy, perhaps before you went to bed. And then you would actually see the little Tetris cubes falling behind your eyes as you drifted off to sleep. And that is the Tetris effect. So, and in that moment, before you fall asleep, that is called the hypnagogic state. It's a bit of a mouthful, but that is when your subconscious is most susceptible to new ideas and new information. So that state just before you fall asleep, and that state just before you wake up, that's the hypnopompic state. They're the two best states that you can actually visualize in, because it really sinks into your subconscious then and makes it seem a little bit more real. And then when we've done lots of visioning, feeling how we want to feel in that state, not on our way there, but as we achieve what we set out to achieve, how we feel, the next step after that is to take action. This is why we call it an action board. It's not just a vision board with a cute house stuck on there. It's an action board. So you need to actually take small steps towards achieving what you want to achieve. So on your action board, for instance, if you have a picture of yourself on there in a pair of leggings, on a racetrack or something like that, you want to get fit, you want to get healthy, that this is one of the goals that you really want. If you don't even have a pair of leggings in your wardrobe, you're not getting very far. So if you can take even an action like that, buying the pair of leggings, or going outside for a walk, something like that, take some sort of action so you can see it's actually starting to get there very slowly. And then when you slowly start to take small steps, your confidence grows, and then that releases a little bit of testosterone. And then that will allow you to take slightly bigger risks and take a little bit more action. And your confidence will then increase again. And it sort of has this snowballing effect. And you'll see that when you start taking action in one area, other things start to become easier as well, because your brain is kind of primed now for taking action. Things to get you to your goal are becoming a little bit more habitual than they were before. It doesn't seem that far away now. You're creating these habits to get you closer to your end goal. And so the neural pathways in your brain are actually thickening because you are building this habit. So it feels as though it's becoming easier for you to do. So it's a fascinating phenomenon, really. And particularly if you achieve one of the things on your action board, then the other things feel easier to achieve as well. It's this big cascade effect that you can actually implement into your action board. So it's a really fascinating way of looking at it. And it's kind of true. It's kind of true. But it's not just the universe pushing you in the right direction. It's one of the wonderful coaching things of taking radical action and building confidence and getting there. This is one of the foundations of coaching. You've got to do things, you've got to practice things, you've got to take this action. So how do we change as a person? Like when we're building these habits, perhaps we want to become a slightly different person. Like we have these lofty goals of being different, fundamentally a different person. So for this sustainable behavioral change, according to neuroplasticity, we can actually change as adults. So you can teach an old dog new tricks. Absolutely, you can. With kids, it comes a lot faster. So kids can change their outlook on life and their behaviors very, very quickly. So if you tell a child, no, don't hate your red hair is beautiful. Because you're an adult in their life, because they have big emotions attached to you, when you tell them something like this, they can change the way they think overnight. And the next day, they will love their red hair. So kids can do it very quickly. But adults need a little bit more time, unfortunately. So we really do need to practice this kind of stuff. And a lot of science shows that if we want to make behavioral changes, it actually takes us about as long as learning a new language, which is about 6 to 12 months. So as much mental or physical effort for these behavioral changes as it does to learn a new language. So, we need to do it constantly. We need to do it consistently and make sure we keep on practicing it. And, I say this to, everybody who'll listen to me in coaching as well. You can't just have an aha moment in a session. You need to take that aha moment and build it into your life so that it becomes secondary in nature. The neural pathways get built up over time and these things just become a habit. But you need to form it like a proper habit. Brain habits are just as hard as physical habits to form. So we definitely need to keep that in mind. But it's 100% possible to do. So with goal setting in a scientific way, it's very much about you've got your raised awareness. So you need to bring subconscious to conscious. You need to tell your brain what's important. And then you've got focused attention. So you need to look out for the opportunities as they arise. So now your brain knows what's important. It says, okay, I've spotted it. There it is over there. Let's go and get that. And that leads into the third step, deliberate practice. So taking action every day on what it is that you've been doing and learning and really sort of implementing that into your system, into your neural pathways as well. And fourthly, you've got accountability as well. So for habits, it definitely helps to have something or someone to keep you accountable. So that might look like journaling. That might look like a habit tracker on your phone. It could be a coach, even. We're fantastic at accountability. So there's all kinds of ways that you can really implement all of these changes into your life and make sure that they stick in the long term. And that, my friends, is how you can manifest real and lasting change in your life with no interference from the universe required. This is all in your control, and this is all about you. So I hope you found that really, really interesting. I loved having you here. And if you've got any questions, pop them in the chat and I will come back to you on them. And if you want to, this is the book again, just in case. I thoroughly recommend this source by Dr. Tara Swart. Definitely get in on that one. And if you ever want to reach out to me about coaching or setting goals, or you're just curious about what coaching is all about, reach out to me on any of my platforms or email me, and I'll certainly reply, and we can have a free session together to work out, how we can best work together. I do one-to-one coaching. I have a group coaching program that's starting on the 16th of June. So I hope you'll be there with me. It's small group coaching for emerging female leaders. So we'll be looking at things like, what does leadership and success mean like to you, different styles of leadership, looking at confidence and communicating and negotiating and influencing other people. We'll also be looking at, how to change the way you think and all of these imposter syndromes and limiting beliefs and things like that. And we'll be doing that in a small group environment. So you know that you will definitely be not alone. So if you're interested in that, I can send you personally some more details as well. And I also do corporate coaching as well. So if you think a lunch and learn like this would be interesting for your team on this, or a range of other topics like leadership, communication, I'd be really happy to talk to you about that as well. Team strategy days, team retreats, things like that as well. So just reach out. And I thank you all very much, whether you're watching this live or on replay. Thank you for your attention and your interest, and good luck with manifestation. I will see you next time.